Yo, what's going on, everybody? You are watching Vikings Now by Chat Sports. My name is Patrick Siepman, and happy Saturday night to all of you guys watching today's show. But we got some breaking news. The Minnesota Vikings are restructuring TJ Hockenson's contract. So no cut, no pay cut for TJ Hockenson. It is just a flat-out restructure, and the Vikings save $5 million. So coming up, we're going to be talking about this move, what this probably means for the Vikings at pick 18 during the NFL draft. Guessing they won't be taking Kenyon Sadiq anymore, and probably won't be bringing in any more talent at the tight end position for this season. Also do want to talk about the Jefferson, Darrisaw, Byron Murphy restructures. Ryan Kelly also retired, so the Vikings cleared up around $25 to $30 million in cap space. Talk about who they could sign. Then also Jonathan Greenard. Want to touch on this. Max Crosby just went for 2 first-round picks last night to the Baltimore Ravens. Max Crosby is obviously better than Jonathan Greenard, but Jonathan Greenard being on a $22 million deal, still 29 years old, playing some great football. I think a team will throw the Vikings a very, very good package for Greenard. So we'll talk about it all coming up on today's show. But, guys, make sure you hit that subscribe button. This week's going to be a lot of fun. I think Monday is one of the most fun days in the entire NFL calendar. Teams are going to be signing players left and right. Will we get a Kyler Murray, Geno Smith update? Whatever it may be, we'll have you guys covered with it all here on the channel. So hit that subscribe button today. Also going to be going live this week on the channel for about 25-plus hours on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So make sure you guys tune in. Going to be a ton of fun. Hit that subscribe button today and help us reach our next milestone of 71,000 subs. All right, let's start off here with TJ Hockenson. So we all thought this whole offseason TJ Hockenson was going to get cut. Like, that was the most obvious move. We were saying it back in week 10, saying it back in week 15, be like, man, TJ Hockenson last year, the knee injury clearly derailed his NFL career, lost a step, and he just really wasn't the same guy. And plus with this cap hit being $21 million next year, the highest in the NFL at the tight end position, we all thought a cut was going to be obvious. The Vikings, if they would have made him a post-June 1 cut, they would have saved $16 million. I thought that was a no-brainer for this organization, considering when the offseason started, this team was $40 million over the cap. You could take a huge chunk out of that by making TJ Hockenson a post-June 1 cut. But then the offseason went on. We got to the scouting combine. Word coming from Indianapolis was that the Vikings were going to approach TJ Hockenson about a pay cut. They didn't want to lose him. They didn't want to open up another need on the roster, but then they decide to just flat out restructure him. So TJ Hockenson, the Vikings are just kind of pushing the credit card down the line here on his contract. I don't necessarily understand it. You had an easy opportunity to get off him this offseason. Cut him, save $16 million. That opens up more money to go sign a guy like just sign a Cade Otton. We've talked about him on the channel. Tampa Bay Buccaneers tight end. You could bring him in for around $9 to $10 million per year and still have $6 million left over from you cutting TJ Hockenson. Mainly, I just don't think Hawk is that good of a tight end anymore. I think he is a very, very low-end tight end one, and especially in 2026, you got to have multiple tight ends. And I like Josh Oliver as a tight end too, a very, very good run blocker, and the Vikings got him on $9 million, but still, you have a very expensive tight end room for 2026, and it's about middle of the pack. I just don't think the Vikings are getting the most value out of the tight end room. But that's the big news from tonight. TJ Hockenson saves about $5 million. Now, other news within the last 24 hours for the Minnesota Vikings. They did restructure the contracts of Justin Jefferson and Christian Darrisaw and Byron Murphy Jr. We've talked about this a lot on the channel. Those 3 guys were prime restructure candidates. Hey, good for those 3. They're going to get more money up front now. But the Vikings needed to do that, pushing this credit card down the line. And you also, Ryan Kelly did end up retiring, so you saved money there. And now the Vikings are at anywhere between $25 and $30 million in cap space. Now, I fully expect the Vikings to not be going out there and being big spenders during free agency. Could it be a small move on the margins? Like a guy like James Pierre, we've talked about, a cornerback from the Pittsburgh Steelers. He could be an option. Maybe you go out there and get into Kobe Dean for $10 million a year. Like, that's as big as of a contract I think the Vikings will shell out. I think it's going to be a lot of guys on one-year deals going for about $7-8 million per year. Maybe they try to go get another defensive tackle since you're losing Hargrave and Allen. And, yeah, Jalen Redmond's a stud, but you need more talent next to him. Like Levi Drake Rodriguez, Tiernan Ingram Dawkins, you would have hoped those guys would take a next step, but you still just need more talent there. So there's still a lot of holes on this Vikings roster, but I'm just curious where they're going to put this $30 million to, because at pick 18 in the draft, I think the Vikings are taking a corner or a safety. whether it's Dylan Thieneman at safety out of Oregon, take him at 18, Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, Toledo safety, take him at 18, or maybe you get lucky and a Jamad McCoy falls to there, or potentially a Mansour Delane. Doubt it that either of those guys fall, but if they do, I think that would be the pick. So I would assume the Vikings now in free agency, like you're not going to spend money on the offensive line. Maybe it's a center like a Cade Mays out of Carolina, but I think they're probably going to bring in another defensive tackle. Now, hopefully they try to go the younger, more athletic options compared to what they brought in last year of Hargrave and Jonathan Allen, but they're probably going to have to spend money on that defensive line. You're good on edge rusher. And even if you do trade Greenard, like you're expecting Van Ginkel and Dallas Turner to have two massive seasons next year, especially Turner trying to get better return on your investment of that 17th overall pick in 2024. But the Vikings will spend a lot of money. Now, after all these moves, all these restructures, all these cuts made, the Vikings are around $50 million in dead cap, some of the highest in the National Football League. But in 2024, the Vikings had $59 million in dead cap. They were able to make it work. So, they need to make all these moves. Now, one move that I think could be coming here, honestly, any second, any day now, and that's Jonathan Greenard. Jonathan Greenard is still a hell of a football player. He's a top 15 edge rusher in the National Football League. He's a 3-down player. He's not just a pass rush specialist. He will play early downs. He's great against the run. He's a great culture guy. He plays hard every single game. And I think after Max Crosby last night went to Baltimore for 2 second-round picks, Jonathan Greenard, the Vikings' asking price was a day 2 pick and more. It should stay at that, and I wouldn't be shocked if, let's just say, a team like the Seattle Seahawks who were reportedly interested in Max Crosby, what if they just throw you pick number 32 and you get a first-round pick out of Greenard? I think it would be worth it. I think there'll be a fair trade on equal size because Greenard, the team trading for him, is taking on $19 million for a premier edge rusher. That's a steal. What if Jerry Jones gets ultra-aggressive? He says, hey, we'll toss you pick 20 for Jonathan Greenard. Unlikely, but Greenard's trade value is 100% higher than it was 24 hours ago thanks to Max Crosby, because the early reports were suggesting that he's probably going to go for a round 1, day 2 pick, and maybe a player ends up going for 2 firsts, and the first-round pick from Baltimore was pick number 14. I'm assuming Greenard's at least getting a second and more, and my take on Greenard, and if the Vikings should trade him, don't just trade him just to move off his contract and obviously get more reps to Dallas Turner. If you get a good enough trade package, you should 100% do it. Like if a team's offering a 3rd-round pick, hang up the phone, keep him on the team. If a team's offering like a 2nd and a 5th, and the Vikings can get cheaper, move off that contract, get a younger player in there, I think you really have to consider it. And also, it's not like the Vikings would be creating a huge need on the roster. You trade Jonathan Greenard, you still got Turner, you still got Van Ginkel there. It's not like you would be like, all right, now we need to go draft an edge rusher. You don't. That's why you traded up for Dallas Turner in 2024, gave up all those picks for you don't need to go do that. So over the next 24 hours, I think the Vikings will make a trade. I'm guessing it's going to be Jonathan Greenard. Doubt a team at the last second tries to trade for Javon Hargrave or Aaron Jones. Those moves won't happen, but I could really see a Jonathan Greenard trade coming pretty quickly here, which, would obviously be sad because Greenard's had a great era here with the Minnesota Vikings. Should have been an all-pro in 2024, but you saved $12 million, and if you save that $12 million, you could be looking at around $40 million in cap space in free agency. Then if you do trade Greenard, maybe that does mean the Vikings go big on a defensive lineman. I'm hearing reports that they like a guy like John Franklin Myers, so watch out for him. But I doubt they go big on another corner like a Jamel Dean potentially in free agency. Probably good at wide receiver. Now, maybe if they trade Greenard, maybe that opens the door back up for Jalen Naylor returning. Obviously, we all want Naylor, speedy, back in Minnesota. But with him supposed to be making around $10 to $12 million, going to be tough to bring him back. But we'll see what happens. But do appreciate all of you guys for tuning in today. We will be live this entire week on the channel. It's going to be a lot of fun. The next probably 7 days covering the NFL is some of the most fun time of the year because pieces are moving. There's going to be a rumor or a move over the next 72 hours that we never even thought about here. We haven't even talked about here on the channel. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So make sure you guys tune in then. Appreciate all of you guys tuning in tonight. Go enjoy the rest of your weekends, and we'll see you guys tomorrow. As always, Skol Vikes.